Hi, I'm continuing my break from the TikTok madness because I need a bit of free time before I can jump back in. This is a Shroomy Boy video about pirates, the CIA, and the great capitalist system crushing us all. Black Lagoon originally was a manga series I have yet to read, so I am going to be talking for the remainder of this video about the anime series, parts available on Netflix, just so we're clear. Before I dive into my kind of niche analytical part, I think it's best to lay some groundwork. Black Lagoon is about a Japanese businessman who is captured by pirates while acting as a courier on the South Asia Sea. Rokuro led a pretty normal, boring life up to this point, but this one event changes everything. His employer takes increasingly more drastic measures in order to secure the discs, going to the point of declaring him dead to cover up what's happening. During his captivity, Rokuro gets rather fond of the pirates as they survive increasingly more dangerous situations together, and the first episode ends with him choosing to stay with them rather than somehow returning alive to Japan with the employer that clearly didn't give two damn shits about him. He's given the name Rock and joins the crew of Black Lagoon. They perform a variety of tasks for payment, often referring to themselves as a delivery service. Rock is then thrown into the criminal-infested city of Rewanapur, often called the most corrupt and vile place on Earth, where, of course, Black Lagoon HQ is also located. 陸側から入る町の入り口には誰のためのものなのか、いつも一本のロープが垂れ下がっている。その先に佇むのは陥落の町ロアナプラ。東京でサラリーマンをしていた僕はこの町で海賊船の一員となっている。This show has so many, great storylines. I mean, there's an episode where they fight an entire ship full of old-school Nazis, and Dutch is just getting increasingly more badass the more racial slurs that are thrown at him. It's like he's powered by the damn thing. 君のようなものが地上から一掃されることを願っておるよ。ご親切にどうも。あんたが地獄に落ちますように。And the character writing is also nothing to sneeze at. I'll quickly go over some of the most important ones for the sake of understanding my later points. I'll start with the crew. First, there's Dutch. He's the boss. He's very mysterious and really needed more screen time to develop his character a little more because right now there's barely anything we know about him. 変わり者なんだよ、彼は。2年付き合って分かったことはタフで知的で変人だってことぐらいだ。理解するのは諦めたよ。Then there's Revi. She's one of the highlights of the show. Her violent, impulsive, almost careless nature contrasts very well with Rock's kind-heartedness and composure and also aversion to conflict. On the other hand, she enjoys fighting for the hell of it and is impulsive as hell. Like a rabid dog that, once it's loose, can't really be reeled in. Only Dutch can kind of stop her. Even growing up, Revi was at the very bottom of the social hierarchy, always living in the worst conditions imaginable, on the streets, later having to fight for survival. Benny is the least interesting member of the crew since he doesn't really have any character moments or backstory at all. He can be summed up as a college student from Florida who got into some hacking trouble and now is running away from law enforcement with Black Lagoon. Also relevant to this video are Balalaika, an ex-Soviet soldier who now runs the Russian mafia in Ruanapur with the surviving members of her squad.
何なんだこの連中は。ロシアマフィアたちのいつもの感じとは少し違う。
Roberta Cisneros, nicknamed the Bloodhound, a ex-revolutionary soldier who's now employed by the Lovelace criminal family. And Edda Blackwater, who's not really that much of a major character, but she's very central to some upcoming things in this video. There's a lot to talk about with this anime, but I want to focus on one thing in particular, how it recognizes the many flaws in our current systems, but is also highly critical of any revolutionary attempts. Revolutionary factions are part of the story in more than one episode, and they aren't presented any more grey than anybody else. Roberta, for example, was a clearly leftist militant and soldier who was disillusioned with her cause after it became clear that her group simply became an enforcer of mafia interests. Revi thinks fighting for ideals is inherently idiotic, as she believes only guns and money matter, as they are the sole things that give power in this world. Often when characters try to do good, they either fail or realize their efforts were never really that impactful to begin with. The best example of this is when the secret of Ruanapur is revealed. The most powerful mob boss in the city, Cheng, is actually controlled by the Central Intelligence Agency, who profit of the South Asian drug trade. At this point, the forces keeping Ruanapur a shithole are so far beyond anyone's control, resisting them is completely futile. The CIA's undercover operative sums it up best as Rock confronts her about his findings.
チャンの背後に潜むロアナプラの真の支配者。それは。
よしなよロック。好き好んで深海のリヴァイアさんを覗き込むことはない。それに知ってっかロック。神様同士だって仲良しとは限らないんだ。
A lot of the themes in Black Lagoon can, in some way at least, be described as capitalist realism. It recognizes all of these deeply rooted flaws, but also gives off a feeling that any fight against them is inherently doomed. All anyone can do is make their own life as comfortable as possible. Both Zizek and Jameson condense the essence of this worldview to a T, saying it is now easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. And our society does imagine the end of the world quite often. Now, some people who share my political convictions might look at doomerism like this and dismiss it as inherently counterproductive. But I think there is a real value to looking at these stories and how they resonate with people. It shows a lot of people already realize a lot of the problems of our modern world, like American global dominance, climate change, and the inevitable collapse of our neoliberal economic system. They just don't know how they could do anything to change the fucking collision course we're on right now. So rather than look down on these kind of stories, we should see them as an opportunity to find people who already feel that there's something wrong with the world we live in and help them reach the next step in trying to make it a better place.